computer, and I'm going to have a backup recording on my video camera so that in case anything goes wrong with the um, with the Zoom recording, I got a backup. Okay, nice office you got there.
Thanks.
Okay, I know your time is limited, so I'm going to just cut right to the chase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, you're the chair of the House Foreign Relations Committee. What's a committee? Sorry, subcommittee. I apologize. What's the committee looking into in the areas of Ukraine, Russia-Ukraine war, Middle East, and South America, Mexico?
The overall committee or my subcommittee?
Well, your subcommittee and then the overall committee.
Okay, so as chair of the Middle East and North Africa subcommittee, my focus is on what's happening in the Middle East and, addressing the challenges between our allies and the threats posed from Iran and its terror proxy network. The larger committee obviously has broad jurisdiction and focused heavily on, the State Department reauthorization, as well as looking at, China, uh, the Russia-Ukraine war, and of course, what's happening in the Western Hemisphere with these narco terror states.
Okay, are there any plans to give sorry, Ukraine, any more weapons from us, or will you be selling, giving? Are we trading?
Well, I'm a very strong supporter of Ukraine. We'd like to see this war come to an end, and certainly see the conflicts, you know, stop. But uh, the challenge here is that you don't have a willing participant in Vladimir Putin. He is vile, he's evil, he's a dictator, and he is solely responsible for what has happened in Ukraine. And so, in the absence of him negotiating a peace, it's imperative that the U.S. continue to support Ukraine and that NATO continue to support Ukraine. And I think that we implement secondary sanctions on Russia.
And looking in South America, Maduro is seems to be ramping up his military, um, to respond to our ships being there. Um, anything about going on with that?
Well, Venezuela is a narco terror state, and Maduro is the head of it, and these cartels have been engaged in uh, trafficking drugs into the U.S. With the express intent of killing Americans. And I think the president was right to designate the cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, and he's right to go after these uh, boats that are trafficking the drugs and build up presence in the region. The threats emanating out of Central and South America with these cartels are significant. For too long, it has been allowed to fester without any real pushback from the countries in the region or those around the world. When we look at terrorism and look at the death and destruction that has been wrought, more Americans are dying on an annual basis from fentanyl overdose, from drugs trafficked from Central and South America, 75,000 a year. So this is a major problem that has to be dealt with.
I mean, the Democrats are saying what Trump is doing by blowing these ships out of the water is illegal and against international law. Um, you know,
I don't
and
agree with that.
well, yeah, I mean, he by declaring them terrorists, I think that opens up the ability for him to do this on specified international waters. Am I wrong about that?
Look, the fact is they are engaged in illicit and illegal activity designed to inflict terror and harm on the American people, and he's stopping it. What would people like? Would they prefer that the drugs come into the U.S. and kill more Americans? From my vantage point, this has gone on for far too long, and somebody's finally doing something about it.
Okay. Okay. You spent one term in the New York State Assembly, and then you ran for Congress. You've skyrocketed to national prominence in a year and in 1.5 terms in Congress. You're practically on every news channel, including some not so Republican friendly ones. There are people who go many terms in Congress and never get known at all. How do you feel about being a national figure? And does this help you in representing the district, and how?
I don't think about it in that uh, in those terms. I look at it from the standpoint of how best can I represent my district and how best can I ensure that we're getting things done on behalf of the people who elected me to represent them. And part of my strategy has been to be omnipresent on media, not to hear myself talk, but because that is one of the best ways to be able to communicate, A, to the general public, but B, to be able to advocate for the policies and the issues that matter. And we've been able to effectively do that and use that those opportunities to advocate for my district. And so, I think part of it is if you don't engage, if you don't go on every network, if you don't, talk to the press, then the people that everyone hears from are the extremes. And so it's important to balance that. It's important to be heard in the debate and in the conversation. So that's a big part of why I do it.
Okay. Now that the shutdown's over, what's next? I mean, Schumer's still saying the shutdown was caused by Republicans, and they're running ads against you saying that you voted to cut Medicaid, Social Security, and SNAP monies. As far as I know, Medicaid and Social Security, I know I saw that laugh, fall under mandated spending and can't be cut short of a 60 vote majority in the Senate. What do you have to say about these accusations?
Well, it's just more lies by those that really don't care about the truth or the people. The fact is, I have always voted to protect Social Security and Medicare. I've never cut Social Security or Medicare. In fact, I fought to get the Social Security Fairness Act passed and signed into law to ensure that retirees who worked as federal employees and those in law enforcement, first responders, that they are not being unfairly penalized because of their pension systems and that they get their full Social Security benefits. So, the idea that somehow we cut that is a bald-faced lie. With respect to Medicaid, we rooted out waste, fraud, and abuse in the system to protect it for those who actually rely on the system and the program. And even with the common sense reforms we put in place, Medicaid is still going to grow by 25%. So it's not, this notion that Medicaid was gutted is a lie. And then, when it comes to, what we're dealing with post shutdown, the fact is, we have to finish our appropriations work. Chuck Schumer and Senate Democrats shut the government down. It's not a disputable fact. It's just
For
a
them, it
fact.
is.
It is a fact. They shut the government down. They voted 15 times to do so. They voted against reopening the government. We have to negotiate an appropriations package, and we have to deal with the cost of healthcare. Under Obamacare, healthcare premiums have skyrocketed. They've risen over 114%. And so at the end of the day, to me, this is just laughable by those like Chuck Schumer and those who want to try to defeat me to claim that we've gutted or cut Social Security or any critical programs that Americans rely on. We're simply saying if you don't qualify, if you shouldn't get those benefits, then you're not going to get them, and that's just a reality.
What about when people turn 65, they're told that they have to go on Medicare and Medicaid? Would s- prevent or ending the mandate to go on Medicare and Medicaid, if you have private insurance, help to extend the life of Medicaid and Medicare?
Look, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of ideas to strengthen these programs and make sure they uh, do not, collapse under the weight of the overall disbursements. But the reality is, these programs were put in place to protect Americans and to make sure that they have the resources and support that they need. Obviously, if you have a private insurance plan on top of Medicare, that obviously is advantageous and helpful to those who have it. But Medicare is there for a reason. We want to protect it. We want to preserve it. We want to make sure it's there for the long term for those who need and rely on it. So, look, there's a lot of ideas that get thrown out. I think the overall objective is to make sure that we can sustain the payments for these trust funds.
So there was only one person in Congress voted against releasing the Epstein files. Why do you think the Democrats were so apoplectic about releasing them when they had 4 years into the previous administration to do so and didn't? Do you think there's something to worry about Democrats being exposed regarding Epstein Island visits or things like that?
Look, as I've said repeatedly, anybody who committed a crime, anybody who was involved in furtherance of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, sex trafficking, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, and abuse of minor children, they should be prosecuted. I don't care who it is, what party they belong to. They should be prosecuted. Obviously, as these files come out, and I voted in support of releasing the files, but as these files come out, I'm sure there's going to be things we learn that are embarrassing to people, that raise serious questions of conduct, and people will need to answer for it, no matter who it is.
Okay. All right, illegal immigration. I know, yeah, this kind of relates with your committee because, excuse me, they're coming in from all these foreign countries. What are you doing to work with the rest of the Congress to deal with the human trafficking and illegal immigrants, especially the ones here in New York?
I think obviously illegal immigration is a major challenge. Since President Trump took office, net border crossings are at zero. We have had zero illegal immigration over the last 6 months because they have enforced the law and they have sealed the border and stopped the massive influx that was occurring under Joe Biden. And the strain that created on the social safety net in cities and states all across America. And obviously, from the standpoint of enforcement and the deportations, they are going after criminal aliens and those who have previously availed themselves of the court system, and going to deport them. Long term, though, we need a immigration fix. You cannot continue to have a system that doesn't work and doesn't address the economic needs of our country. And so when you look at the fact that there are probably over 20 million people who are in this country undocumented, um, you have to deal with the reality of that. People who have been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years, whose children and grandchildren may be American citizens. Are those the people that we want to round up and kick out? In my opinion, no. There should be a pathway to legalization, not citizenship, not amnesty. They have to abide by certain terms. That's why I am a co-lead on the Dignity Act. They can't commit a crime. They have to pay a fine. They have to pay back taxes. They have to have a job and they can't collect government benefits. I think most people think that is a reasonable approach to deal with this situation. So that's my objective, and trying to work towards a solution here, as opposed to just this continued broken system that does nothing to help anybody.
Oh, that goes down to the idea of birthright citizenship. The Democrats and others are claiming under the 14th Amendment that birthright citizenship is in that amendment. Now, I was a history teacher. I know that the 14th Amendment just talks about the former slaves getting citizenship and their children. Um, I mean, do you think the idea of birthright citizenship is a good thing, bad thing?
Look, birthright citizenship obviously has been, an issue that has been discussed for, 160 years. Uh, the objective going back to the Civil War and making sure that slaves, formerly enslaved people, were in fact given citizenship rights, and absolutely they should have been. I think there are abuses in the system today where people are coming into the country illegally and having children for the express purpose of making them an American citizen. I think there's a kind of common sense reform to this that can be, handled, which is to say, if you come here legally and you are, an immigrant on a green card, on a visa, etc., and you end up having a child here, that child is an American citizen. If you are not here legally and you have a child, that child is not. And I think that's, there's probably a reasonable approach that can be taken on this that I think uh, would have consensus and support.
Okay. I know your time is short, and I know you got another meeting in a few minutes. So let's end this with the on the low more on the local scene. He held a press conference about the Stony Point Bridge, and soon after that, the bridge work was done and the bridge was reopened. Now we have the 9W corridor with Chippy, Champlain Hudson Power Express, doing a lot of work there and disrupting businesses. They're losing tens of thousands of dollars, and like Stephanie Malowski said at your press conference, looking about $10 million. That was almost 2 months ago, so it's probably gone up by a few million. What can you do on the federal level to help them recoup some of their losses so they can survive? And can you talk to Hochul and to get her to declare this area a disaster so that all the other aid can come in?
Look, I pushed for the governor to declare a state of emergency and an economic disaster to help ensure more resources can come in to support the small businesses. But I've also been working with Chippy, with their financial backers, including Blackstone, to see what can be done to support the small businesses with a more robust, small business fund. And we're in the process of having those discussions and working to find a positive resolution here.
Okay. Last question. You're up for reelection next year. You got seven people that I know of right now who probably that field will probably increase. Democrats vying to kick you out of your seat. What do you got to say to the constituents that are going to be watching this, and about why they should keep you in office?
Look, I have served our community, with all of my vigor and being to help every constituent. We have closed over 7,500 individual constituent cases. We have brought back over $40 million to constituents. We've brought back tens of millions of dollars to our municipalities in support for critical infrastructure projects, law enforcement, environmental projects. We have worked tirelessly to advocate on behalf of the district on myriad of issues, including lifting the cap on salt. I was proud of the fact that we delivered the single largest tax cut in the entire bill by lifting the cap on salt from 10,000 to 40,000. a 4x increase. So when people go to file their taxes next year, they're going to see a significant tax cut. The average New Yorker is going to see a $4,000 tax cut. So, for our community, for our district, we've delivered big wins. I've passed, well over a dozen pieces of legislation. A number of them have been signed into law. And we'll keep working on behalf of the community, regardless of, the politics, regardless of, whether people like or dislike. The fact is, we all have a job to do, and I continue to do it and do it effectively on behalf of this district. And from the standpoint of the current administration, the fact is, standing on a street corner and just screaming doesn't solve anything. It doesn't resolve the challenges we face as a country. It doesn't advance the ball forward. I engage constructively, and whether I agree or disagree on something, work to address the issue before us. And that's what I'll continue to do. You look at the Social Security office. We got that reopened. We got the hearing office reestablished here in West Nyack, which was a big win for the Hudson Valley after the Biden administration had shut down the hearing office. So we have a lot of work to do, and I'll continue to do it on behalf of our district, on behalf of our community.
Okay.